Party is brought to you by Dilmah's delicious new infusions range. And today we are drinking tangerine, rose and grapefruit. Good afternoon and welcome to Dilmah Tea Party. As you can see, a bit of rain around here at Seddon Park, which we're not loving, but what I am loving today is to celebrate him calling his 250th Test match. Let that sink in, 250 Test matches. That is quite a few. The voice of New Zealand cricket, Bryan Waddle, is with me today. And actually, I should say welcome back to you, because you used to do this.
I've been here before, yeah. A couple of times, yeah. Once
or twice. So 250 tests, has that sort of sunk in yet?
Well, yeah, to a certain extent, because you expect it. If you're around 36 years, I suppose those sorts of things are going to happen. I mean, it's just a number, but cricket is about numbers and about milestones. And, you know, I'm proud to have been able to do that many test matches. It means that, you know, if you're around long enough and you can do those test matches, bosses have kept covering cricket and kept giving me a job, so I'm grateful to them. Oh, and I just love it. It's 36 years of fun. Brilliant.
It's fantastic. And for you, like, I remember going to my brother's cricket and my dad taking his transistor radio. So your voice for me is what cricket is all about in this country. And I know I'm not the only one that's like that. But let's go back to 1981, which was your first test at the Basin Reserve, and that's your home ground. You love Wellington, we know that, proud Wellington man. Could you have foreseen what was going to happen to you and the ride you would take at that moment when you walked in there that day?
No, because that's not what I sort of set out to do. I set out to become a sports broadcaster doing everything in sport. That means reading sports news, doing interviews, and just cricket was just part of that. I did other sport as well. I did hockey before I did cricket, and all those sorts of things. It just so happened that as things went on, people who were more experienced than me got out or went elsewhere. I mean, Grant Nisbet was doing the job that I am doing at that time. I took over from him because he moved on to do rugby and other things, but he was a Test cricket commentator on radio at that time. So I was just lucky to fill in when people just moved on, and I've been doing it ever since, and it's great.
Cricket is obviously the one that has stuck for you. So how or why, or what about cricket has kept you interested and kept you wanting to come back summer to summer to talk about this wonderful game?
It's just my passion. I've been a cricketer since year dot. You know, my father was involved in administering a cricket club, Karori Cricket Club. We used to go along as a family. That was what you did in the 50s and 60s. You just went along to cricket, you know. They'd tie me up against a fence with a skipping rope or something along those lines and leave me there, and I became a proper little nuisance around the cricket ground, and I've continued that on for years, right up until these days. But that's all I ever did was play cricket, and I used to listen to cricket, you know, transistor under the pillow or taking it around anywhere, you know. I'd go to college, and if there was a test match on, you know, the old earpiece was down there and you'd lean on that like that and listen to the test cricket, you know, not knowing what the teachers were talking about half the time. So it's always just been in my blood, and you know, I thought that being a commentator would be great, and it's turned out to be even better than great.
Who was the commentator that you were listening to that was your favourite?
Probably in those days would have been Alan Richards and Ian Galloway, who were basically my mentors. I mean, they were, you know, wonderful commentators. I always think of poor old Alan Richards. You know, he did 98 test matches in the same time as I did my 250. So he didn't get to cover anywhere near the amount of cricket as I did. He was 36 years as a commentator, but only did 98 tests because New Zealand didn't play that many test matches. And Ian Galloway was, you know, he was a major part of the commentary team, and I learned a lot from them, and hopefully I've been able to carry on what they have done for cricket on radio.
Is it true you got the call up to put on the boots and the whites and stuff and get out there one time when you were away?
I wish. Unfortunately, no.
Close? Did you get close?
I got really close.
Really close. Did you offer a lot?
I did. I was eager. Where's the gear? No, they put, you know, clowns like Coney on there just because he'd played Test cricket.
Oh, that's not
He
fair.
went on. Ken Nicholson, you probably know Ken Nicholson, was a TV journalist.
Yes.
He was on in that game, and you know, there were others who were sort of 12th, 13th and 14th man in the Test match in Bangalore, where Richard Hadley got his world record 374, and they said they needed substitute fieldsmen. Well, as Jeremy Coney will tell you, he thinks that I was first out of the box and off to get the gear on, when really I was just, you know, going along behind. But I was hoping that I would get a run, but they didn't need me.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I never got to play.
I'm sorry. So why though did they all get the call up to go on? What happened?
Oh, that was the illness tour. You know, you could write a book about that. That was Bangalore, 1980. It's 87 or 88, something like that, when Richard Hadley was on the verge of breaking the world record for the number of Test wickets. And we went to Bangalore. Jeremy Coney was sent as my comments man on that occasion because it was a significant tour. And we did that tour, and he duly broke the record on the first morning, which was, you know, a disaster in itself, because we had no connection to New Zealand, no phone line that we were broadcasting down. The technicians were standing up on a table, you know, where we were trying to broadcast from. They don't have plugs over there in some of their cricket grounds. They just put two wires in the hole and then put matches in to hold them in there, you know, and sort of wondering what's going on. And these guys were fiddling around, and I could see it coming. I could see the wicket, and we were not going to have it. And I was broadcasting into a recorder so that we didn't miss it. And I sort of made some preparation about what I was going to say. But it never came out quite the right way. But I just broadcast into this tape recorder, and it just so happened that the line to New Zealand came through as Hadley was going into bowl to a guy called Aaron Lyle. Chris Kugelheim took the catch at second slip, and that was the first they heard in about 20 minutes of the Test match in New Zealand, and it got recorded, and it's been dubbed over a lot of television footage of that as well, because there wasn't much sound from New Zealand's point of view, because there was only an Indian commentary at that time. And then from then on, Hadley got sick with some virus. That was the tour where they had a rest day, and he was in a room, and a whole lot of players were put into a room. They had crosses marked on the door, don't go in there. And so Hadley couldn't play, and they needed people to go out. There was about 5 that they needed to substitute. But the funny part about it was Hadley was so sick he had to go out there and bat to avoid the follow-on, which they did ultimately, but he was so ill, he walked out to bat with Ewan Chatfield, and he headed in totally the wrong direction. He went over towards deep mid-wicket, and Chats had to walk down and lead him out to the middle. Then he stood and leant on his bat for the whole time. And Jeremy Coney was telling this morning at breakfast a story about, you know, Chatfield playing the ball up towards deep mid-on, heading off for a single, and Hadley was just standing there at the non-striker's end. So he was almost face-to-face with him, had to turn around and get back, and dived in and managed to just cover his self with glory and all the dirt that was lying on the ground. And that was why they needed the substitute fieldsman. It was an interesting Test match and an interesting tour, because, you know, they won a Test match after that in Mumbai. And it was just one of the enjoyable parts of going to the subcontinent. I'm sure, Laurie, you've been to the subcontinent a few times.
I have been once.
Yes.
It's a very fascinating
It is a very
place
fascinating place, and it's a lot more comfortable now than in the days when we used to go over there in the 80s and the teams that went in the 50s, 60s and 70s.
I can't even imagine. I've got plenty more questions for you, but right now we're just going to head out to the middle to Craig Cumming to find out what is going on with this weather. Are we going to get some more cricket today?
Oh, I'm not sure, Laura. It's a little bit of a setup. I'm not sure what I've done to be able to get everywhere and tell you what's going on. And quite simply, we could have looked out the window and actually realised that it's still raining. It's actually raining pretty hard, to be honest with you. It's sort of set right in. We're right by the edge of the covers. And as I look at it, there's a lot of water starting to gather onto the covers, so that's going to take time to get them off. The other question, and if I just keep walking backwards, that I'm going to do, there's a bit of an area that I've looked at over here, and we can actually see, and one thing about this outfield we got here is there's actually a fair bit of paint. They paint it to make it look greener in around here. So this is all starting to get very wet. So when it comes to the ground stuff, they think it might stop raining. The problem will be whether or not they can actually dry the outfield out. There's not a lot of rain around, and it's actually closing in. And then the next question is to do with light. But what I'll do, Laura, just before I throw back to you, we want to see how much rain is going to fall. Well, what I've got here is my spitter-meter. So this is the spitter-meter, which tells me how much rain is falling, 10 being really heavy, 0 being nothing, and I can hold it out there, and I can tell you at the moment the spitter-meter is 6.5, which means it's moderate to heavy, and I'm not expecting to clear very, shortly. So again, being wet, I was cold in Wellington, I'm wet here in Hamilton. Make sure I've got a cup of Dilmah when I come back out, but 6.5 is the number.
Craig Cumming, when will you learn? That ended him up on Sports Centre last time I used his calculator, but there we go. OK, so here is your chance to win Dilmah's delicious new infusions range, valued at $85. Simply go to dilmah.co.nz/tea party, answer a few questions, and you're in the draw. We have 9 sets to give away. Now, the voice of New Zealand cricket, Bryan Waddle, today celebrating his 250th Test match that he will have called, which is just superb. How has it been celebrated? Because it is something definitely worth celebrating.
Well, it's almost been a little bit over the top to some degree. I'm quite proud of it. It's an achievement, and my work, Radio Sport, have been running sort of commentary highlights and all sorts of things. People have been sending tweets and Facebook and texts and stuff like that. You know, it's nice. It makes you feel warm and fuzzy.
Oh, well, it should. Well, here the Blackcaps are this morning saluting you and gifting you with a plaque, was it?
Yeah, a lovely, sort of almost in the shape of a microphone, with a microphone on it, and 250 tests. That's as special as it comes to me.
Yeah.
You know, to be honoured like that, to be celebrated by the players who, you know, you sometimes annoy. You criticise them. You have difficult moments with them. And I made that point. I said, I understand that at times we will upset you because of our comments. That's the job. But I respect the fact that no one has ever not spoken to me because of that, or if they haven't liked something I've said, they've come up and asked me to explain myself. And that to me is a good relationship between the players and the media, and I think that has existed for a long time. I did make the point that Craig McMillan was one who did spend a bit of time not talking to me because of something I'd said, but, you know, Mac and I still get on pretty well, so that was all fun.
So what has been, because there have been a lot of great moments. We were talking earlier, and I checked with Bryan how many ODIs that means he would have covered, and you thought in the 500 mark, which is just extraordinary, or above that perhaps.
Yeah, well,
we can't count all of those.
That's a guess, yeah.
That's a guess. But what in your mind have been the greatest moments in New Zealand cricket that you've called?
Well, winning a test match, the one in Hobart where Doug Bracewell got the last wicket, winning a test match in India, being there to call Ross Taylor's double hundred in Perth, Brendan McCullum's 302. That was a special moment in cricket. You know, I've talked about how very seldom do you see a cricket ground in New Zealand where people are queuing up outside just to witness that one little event. And it was amazing at the Basin Reserve that day. That was special. Martin Crowe, any time I could commentate on Martin Crowe was just outstanding. I mean, he was the best that New Zealand has produced. His record partnership with Andrew Jones and other times that I've seen him bat, they're just a small number of the moments because they're the special milestones. But to be able to be in a position to see New Zealand play cricket, to share with them the highs and lows of the game, to be able to bring the story to the public who want to know what's going on, and to get the plaudits as well as the criticism. I mean, we get plenty of criticism as well, I'm sure you know that. But those are the things that make it special. Cricket is about people, and the people in cricket have been great to me, and I've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been just a real buzz, and hope it continues for another 250 tests.
I have no doubt it will. Now, I've got to ask, because as a wife myself, I have questions to ask. You must have an incredibly supportive family that let you do this, because I know that touring life can be very lonely, and you have toured all the test play nations on several occasions. So you must have a great family that helps you do this.
I have a wonderful family. I wouldn't have been able to do it without their support. They've carried, my wife and kids have carried on life, carried on the home, done all the things that, I should have been doing at times, just the little things around the house, missing family events, my daughter's first day at school, all those little things, that are important to families, and not being able to do them. And they've been extra special, and I couldn't have done all this time without it. I know it's been hard on them, but they've lived through it, they've enjoyed it, they've experienced the highs and lows with me, and I couldn't thank them enough. They've been absolutely brilliant support for me, and as you well know, it is a tough time being at home alone while your husband or boyfriend or partner or whatever is away. So I've been very lucky.
Well, Bryan, we are the lucky ones that have got to listen to you calling this wonderful game, and we appreciate it so much. I've got a little Dilmah pack for you to take home. It's not 250 years worth of Dilmah, 250 test matches worth of Dilmah for your wife, but it'll be lovely to take home for you. Thank you so much for your time today.
They will love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you give to the game. Right, now it is still raining here at Seddon Park, so we're going to check out the highlights of the third ODI between New Zealand and South Africa.